welcome back to the Seattle Indies Expo Day 2. I'm Meg, back again with the wonderful mac and cheese, please. And it's time to check out some Keyboard Kommander. We're very excited to be joined by the developer of Keyboard Kommander, William. Thank you so much for, William and Seth, thank you so much, both of you, for being here with us and for showing us more about your game. Before we watch a quick trailer, I would love to hear, what is your game? What is it all about?
Yeah, sure. So I'll jump in. Type 'em up shooter game. So it's a member of the type 'em up genre that is a shooter that's played by typing various words to target the enemies on screen that you're trying to shoot. And we bring a strategic and a narrative edge to the game through Seth's story, which he's working on, as well as all the strategy components that you have to go into building up your base, target prioritization, which weapon to use, and such. So.
Awesome. Well, let's just jump into some gameplay. I'm really excited to check this game out. I grew up with a lot of typing. I think my words per minute that I have, I'm not trying to flex, but like it's pretty good. I think it really stemmed from playing a lot of these games as a kid, and it's handy in my day-to-day, I won't lie. So I'm curious to hear about kind of what inspired you to create this game. Is there kind of that nostalgia factor in there at all with playing keyboard games over the years or something like that?
Yeah, sure. So I started working on this game as a college sophomore, actually, and a real motivator for me was that I was looking for ways to bring up my words per minute. But at the time, most of the typing games were just rote typing out words, not a lot of strategy to them, and it was kind of frustrating for me. There was, of course, Typing of the Dead, which I am still a huge fan of, but that game really just did basic prioritization. Shoot the zombie that's like closest to you, the one that's going to hurt you first. It didn't really involve more strategy or like RPG elements, or it didn't. And I really wanted to expand on what Typing of the Dead had done and create a game that brings strategy and an interesting narrative component to it. So I focused on making a game where it wasn't just about target prioritization, but also about stunning zombies so that they can't get closer to you, like blocking zombies with other zombies, creating traps for the zombies. You can see they just created a trap over there, which I think is about to stun that sprinter. So yes, I really wanted to expand on the type 'em up genre and do stuff that hadn't been done before. And that's really what inspired me to make the game. So
you really emphasize wanting to have like a strategy to the game. What are some of the strategies that people can use?
Yeah, so a big part of it is knowing which weapon to use and at which time. So the game has 4 different weapons which you can use. So the standard one is your rifle, which is kind of like your bread and butter for like your average encounter. But if you have a lot of zombies clumped up together, you might use your mortar, which will provide an area of effect damage, which will actually linger over time. So you can set up these like flame clouds of sort of like burning napalm type stuff that zombies will walk into and then become temporarily stunned as well as damaged by. If you have a lot of zombies that are in a line, or you have a tank zombie, which you need to get through the shields for, there's the laser weapon that you can use. And if you're just looking to get some crowd control and you need to push the zombies away from you and get them stunned, like if you're overwhelmed, that's where the blaster comes in. So that's a big component there. There's not a lot of typing games that feature like different weapons to cycle between. I think Epistory touched on that a little bit. It wasn't really the same type of mechanics. Yeah, so that was a big component for us. Other strategic components are just knowing how to break up different zombie combos. So a lot of times you'll see a tank which will be protecting other zombies with its shield, and that's usually your cue to use that laser and take out that tank before he can like help the zombies like push forward to your front line, basically. So.
Sure.
When you said zombie combos right now, oh, sorry.
No, please talk about the combos. This is like, I'm so excited about this game.
There's so much shit back. It's awesome. When you said zombie combos, really my brain just went zombos. But that's just my brain being my brain.
I'll call it that from now on. Zombie combos or zombos. I love that.
Zombos. But when I was doing some research about this game, I thought it was like amazing that you have all volunteer staff working on it and that it's like free to access. Just amazing stuff. We have to talk about it. How did this project come to be?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I've been working on this game for, I round up to a decade. It's been about 8.5 years now. So I first started, like I was saying, working on this in college. And after I graduated, I just basically got new people to work on the project through my connections through Seattle Indies. It's very interesting how I actually got Seth to work on this project, because I actually ran into him at a bar that I used to frequent a bit. And he was like he was a security guy there at the time, and he was talking about how he was trying to break into games writing and stuff. But basically through the Seattle Indies community, I was able to find a lot of cool people to collaborate with and work with on this project over the course of its rather long development cycle at this point. So I've gotten to work with a lot of very talented individuals. Jen is our project manager. She's been really instrumental at driving the project to its. We're very close to completion now, yeah, we've had a lot of awesome people work on it. We have a very talented audio engineer, Steven Garcia, who has been working with us on this. And there was another programmer who actually he couldn't keep going through COVID, but he learned how to program through this game and actually got a full-time software engineering gig out of it. So I was really happy about how that worked. So does that answer your question about how the team kind of came to be and stuff? Or?
Yeah, that's really, really great. It's super cool. It almost like reminds me of like the Avengers or some like superhero movie where they all like slowly meet in different ways and then they get together and make an awesome typing game. Sure.
So that make you Nick Fury, I guess. Okay, sure. Wait, Seth, which Avenger are you?
Oh, I'm definitely Hawkeye.
Definitely.
You're like, I've thought about this before. I already know.
I'm the one that doesn't get a movie.
Oh.
Oh, man. But yeah, it's been really fun to work on this project, and I think everyone on the team has really learned a lot through the course of development. I've definitely grown a lot as a developer, as a programmer, as well as like a game developer. My philosophy on design has definitely fundamentally changed over the course of this project. The big thing that I talk about a lot when I talk about this game is just how much the bad decisions that I made architecturally when I was in college wound up biting me in the back later on in development, and how I think this game has taken a long time for me because I've actually had to go back and rewrite large portions of the code base and rework a lot of mechanics. But I mean, through that process, you really learn and grow as a developer, and I feel like it's been really positive for me. So.
Something I'm curious about, how has your journey in meeting all these different people kind of shaped the game to what it is now and what it was when you first started meeting people and people injecting their ideas or maybe disagreeing with you? How has that kind of changed the process?
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. So I'm taking the question as like, how did meeting the new people and getting their perspective on the game change like the course of development? And I'll just say like, when I came out of college with this game, I was kind of just like running wild with it and just doing whatever development like I thought was fun to do. And I feel like that works if it's just like your own like project that you're like hacking on. But as soon as other people have a stake in the project, they really start to like rein you in a bit. And I kind of realized I couldn't just do whatever I wanted. And I actually had to focus on like making a complete game. So that was definitely part of it. I think that there's a lot of different components of the project that I didn't really think about until I brought people on the project who were interested in those components. So for example, I really had to rethink the art as I brought a project manager onto the project. And so we really wanted the game to have like a unique feel and pop. So working with our PM, who was also like a design graphics type person, we really reworked the user interface and reworked the shaders for the game into something very cohesive to give it a sort of cyberpunk feel to it. And I think through all these different people and all the perspective that they've brought onto the game, we've really converged on sort of an accidental unity of design almost, where like the stuff starts to make sense together. And the story, which I really hope Seth could talk to, but the story really complements the idea of this 1980s aesthetic and sort of a retro-futuristic post-apocalypse, so maybe not the one that you might be expecting. It comes together with like the art, and I think the mechanics really add a lot too. And so I feel like we've sort of arrived at a point just where by trying so many different things, eventually we've come to a cohesive vision that has like started to make sense, which is kind of like the opposite of how you do stuff. I feel like you're supposed to have like an idea of what kind of game you're going to make from the beginning, but that's not how we did it with this one. So yeah.
You mentioned the story.
Yeah.
Can we dig into that a little bit? I want to learn more about what the premise of the story is here.
Sure. I mean, what kind of questions do you have? I mean, I can kind of give you a basic overview of the story, or if you have questions.
Yeah, I guess set the scene for us. What is happening in the story?
Basically, there is an apocalypse, and we have definitely kind of had a deluge of apocalypse stories over the course of the last decade. So the real hard part about this was actually finding something that was new, something that would both be interesting to tell and be relevant to the folks who are playing the game. So we decided on a path. We've gone with that. Most of the story revolves around kind of each level that you play, but in more kind of a wildly different narrative, like what's going on with the keyboard commander and what you see on the screen are, I wouldn't say they're two different things, but the gameplay is just very much kind of a slice of what's going on in the story. So you have to play through the game to really dig into kind of the life and times of Professor Warren Gray, aka the keyboard commander. So it's his journey through this kind of nightmarish zombie apocalypse, how it came to be, and what he's doing to hopefully prevent it from continuing and perhaps even saving the world.
And also there's components about like the social media and like internet addiction turning people into zombies. Can you talk about that at all? Sorry, I'm not trying to do your guys' job.
Oh, that's cool.
I get excited about that, but
yeah, there are components there. I mean, I don't necessarily want to give away some of the kind of the plot points to the game itself, but looking at, I mean, we spend a lot of time on our cell phones. Like I do it. I think we all do it, and we're glued into interacting with people through a screen and over distance when we definitely have a lot of people around us, and there comes a point in time when you have to start questioning the idea of like, are we actually cultivating relationships or are we pushing relationships away? So the story explores that a bit. Probably more on the extreme side, given zombies and the fact that the keyboard commander is really kind of the last person alive on Earth at this point. So yeah, there is definitely some good social commentary in there, at least the best that we can make it.
and then to speak to the presentation of the story for sure.
Oh no, please go ahead.
Okay, yeah, just to speak to the presentation of the story a little bit, we tried to do something really interesting here, which is that we've created a typing tutor where you actually like type out the story, which is kind of cool. And then after you've like typed it out, then you unlock these journal entries, which you can go back and read. So the idea being it might take you like 2 or 3 attempts. Like the game is sort of designed that on the second hardest difficulty, an advanced typist would take like 2 or 3 attempts to like beat each level. And so the idea is as you type through the level and as you're unlocking upgrades that eventually get you to beat the level, you're working out what's going on in the story, and then you can eventually go back once you've completed the level and read the journal to read it all together as a cohesive narrative. And that's something that hasn't really been explored in typing shooters a lot. If you look at epistory or stuff, you type thematically appropriate text, but you don't type out a story. The only game that's done something similar to the way we've presented the narrative is Icarus Proudbottom Teaches Typing, which I'm a big fan of that one as well. There's a running theme here that I like things that involve typing. But, yeah.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my question is like, does the story unfold through the typing or are there cutscenes as well? So you answered what I was going to ask. That kind of brings up a follow-up, which is the order that you're typing in. Is it pre-designated? Does it give you where to go next and that's the story? Or can you choose, depending on which letter you type, which zombie you focus on?
Right. So basically, that comes into like our basic core mechanic about target prioritization versus using your weapons. So in order to target a zombie, you type the specific letter that is over their head. At that point, you're now aiming at the zombie, and to shoot at the zombie, you then type the words in the story. While typing the words in the story, you can hit tab to change which weapon you're using, and you can also pick up an upgrade at any time by typing the punctuation mark associated with that upgrade, which appears over it the same way the targeting letter would appear over a zombie. What's really interesting though is if you don't shoot an upgrade and you time it just right, a zombie might walk into that upgrade and then get stunned temporarily, giving you like a little bit of an advantage. Or if you make a typo, a rager zombie might show up and destroy your upgrade before that happens. So don't do typos because they upset the rager zombies. Yeah. So I get a lot of thoughts.
So
like,
it really forces you to type correctly and quickly.
Yeah, and if you look at a lot of other typing tutors, I haven't really seen a typing tutor that enforces accuracy the same way ours does. If you look at Typing of the Dead, you can really ham-fist it and make a lot of typos on most of the difficulties, and it won't slow you up. Same goes for Epistory, same goes for Icarus Proudbottom, but in our game, if you make a typo, the Rager zombies will make sure that you pay for it. So.
Uh-oh.
Man, they sound like
I'm in
angry
trouble.
editors.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
Copy
thank you.
editors are like, no.
Yeah, the angry editors.
Can I just say, I really, really wish that this game existed when I was like a kid learning how to type. I think this looks,
Right?
it's just such a fun spin on this genre. Yeah, of course. And I'm a little curious about, I guess, what the target audience is. I know there's different difficulty levels. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes, I can speak to the target audience, and that's something that we thought a lot of throughout the course of like our various redesigns. So if you read the original design document that I wrote as a naive college sophomore, I think I targeted specifically typing tutor enthusiasts over the age of 25, which is a very narrow market. Since then, our target audience has shifted a bit. So we went through one stage where we were actually looking at trying to get this in public schools, and that idea was scrapped because it is too violent, and the violence is core to the game. So this isn't necessarily aimed at students in typing tutor classes. It's more aimed at anyone who is looking to improve their typing speed. So it could be people, students looking to improve their typing speed after class. It could be your typing tutor enthusiast. It could be someone who's looking for an interesting game narrative experience and wants to branch out that way. Or it could be like a college student who's looking to boost their words per minute because they have a lot of note taking to do. So those are some of the user profiles that we've come up with. But I think the most interesting profile, and the one that I identify most with for this game, is someone who is a fan of narrative experiences who wants an interesting mechanical experience to complement that. And that's the person that I really want to play this game. So that
we also
probably
don't necessarily. We also don't necessarily shy away from some of the kind of the darker aspects of the zombie genre. So, like the writing there definitely kind of targets a little bit more mature audience.
Sure.
I also feel like a lot of the writing's like very like cool, and there's like multiple layers to it and stuff. So I feel like someone who appreciates a good novel would appreciate our game too.
There's a question in chat. So Richter was asking, do you think there will be a voice to text added or any other like accessibility features?
In terms of accessibility features, I don't know that I've thought of that one yet. I think there was some talk of voiceover on the journal scene. Did you want to talk to that one, Seth, or should we not cover that one? Or...
I honestly, I think working towards accessibility is a great idea. We are still kind of working out all of the bugs and the basic gameplay. Again, you know, with William having started this project over 8.5 years ago, there really wasn't a question back then as to like how to make things more accessible. So these are all actually really new questions to us, and very good questions as to whether or not we would like to be able to continue to do that for this game. I think it would be a great idea. We are thinking about doing some voiceover work, and I could see where that might be able to kind of push into more accessible gameplay. But again, like this being an all volunteer staff, it may end up taking us longer to do something in that capacity than
I am looking to make the sorry.
No, you're good.
Well, I was just gonna say, I am looking to make the font a little bit easier to read. I'm doing some work into that right now because we had gotten some feedback on that, and I'm looking to make the game a bit more accessible there. Some people with like vision problems have commented that we might be able to find a more accessible font, so I am working towards that right now.
Sure.
So.
Very cool. Another question from chat. Alchemist Joker was wondering, are there plans for adding DLC to continue the story, or are there any side stories or side quests?
Okay, so I actually think that would be pretty cool. But
We're
like
stumping ya.
that, I mean that's something I've actually thought about a bit. Was and it would probably be like DLC or like a standalone additional chapter. I think it's going to depend on like how the game is received when it's finished, and if we get feedback. I mean, the story is pretty meaty. Like there is a lot of content in this game. And I think when the story is about done, and I think with the amount of times we're expecting people to play through the levels in order to complete them, unlocking upgrades as they go, I think we're looking at about, Seth could correct me on this, but about like 12 hours of content.
Nice.
And so the question is, like, are we receiving feedback from our community that after like 12 hours of gameplay and playing like the endless mode, people still want another campaign? If like one single person says yes, and I have time to do that, like, sure, I'd love to do that. But it's just a question of like what the demand for that is, and I would certainly love to do something like that. But yeah,
Something I've
would
noticed.
say.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, I would say that, like, with the scope of this project, that the next Keyboard Commander, if we were to do a sequel or if we were to do DLC, the amount of time that it takes up to be able to work on this and also, you know, make a living beyond kind of the volunteer position. We may have to kind of rethink how we go about building the game and whether or not we would want to kind of transition into an actual studio, so that we could free up time for people and actually begin kind of putting the game out in a more professional capacity beyond kind of the volunteer status that we have at this point.
hey, we've never thought about this, but what about user-generated content? We could just have people like if they wanted to make their own story, like plug in their own story. I don't know. Seth might not like that idea, but
I'm good
I
with,
think it sounds cool.
with open source. So
Suddenly this has become a 13-year project. No.
What? Something I noticed is throughout a lot of the things you've said and your answers to the questions we've asked, you bring up feedback, and I think it's really great that you're so big on listening to what the community wants and then integrating that into the game. And I'm aware that the game is in early access right now, so I'm curious to hear about kind of how early access feedback has played a role and how it will continue to play a role, and also what differences you anticipate between, you know, what we're looking at now and when the full game is launched.
I don't hear him anymore.
Yeah, I don't hear him.
I was told earlier that there have been some lag issues.
Well, thank you so much for taking some time to show us Keyboard Commander. This game looks great. I am so excited to check it out, and I think we're gonna have some really speedy typers out there thanks to this game. Thank you so
Our
much,
words per minute are going
Will
to be
and Seth.
crazy.
I know, we're gonna be through the roof. Everybody's over 100. It's gonna be amazing. Seth, can you tell us a little bit about where we can check out the game, learn more about, you know, you guys and what you're working on?
We're obviously on Steam Early Access right now. You can find it there. I believe we're also on itch. William's definitely kind of the better person for this question. They kind of just keep me in a basement and occasionally throw things at me to get me to write. So I have the unfortunate proclivity of not having grown up a typist, so I hunt and peck. I cannot actually play this game, so they put me in a corner.
You sit there and write. Thank you.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So yeah, check us out on Steam. We're definitely there. We would absolutely love more feedback. We would love more user-generated reviews. A good portion of how we have built this game has been around each individual's personal experience with the game and how they felt like it could be changed in a way that makes it better. So it's definitely, at least from my experience in the last maybe 2 years, I've noticed that like William takes constructive criticism about the game very, very well, and we are very definitely eager to hear what the community has to say about all aspects of the game.
You heard it here. Go download it and become your best typer self. Thank you so much. It was great getting to chat with you both. Now it's going to be time for a